Hi, this is John Petrucci here in Petaluma, California at the Mesa Boogie factory. I'm here with my beautiful Mark V head, and I'd like to take a few moments to share with you some of my philosophies on tones as well as some of the settings that I use live and in the studio. So check it out, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so I'd like to start with channel 1. I use channel 1 primarily for my clean sound, and what I'm going for in general is a sound that's very full-bodied, rich, well-balanced, kind of chimey on the high strings, but tight and piano-like on the low strings. And the reason is I primarily use it for arpeggiated chord sequences in my songs. It's not necessarily the type of sound you'd use for sort of the tight, spanky, thin rhythm thing, but it is great for what I just mentioned. Now, I like to use, on channel 1, I like to use it in the fat mode, and I like to have the bold switch engaged as well. And here's my philosophy on the way that I have it set. First of all, as far as the basic sound is, I try to get it as clean as possible. So major headroom, no breakup at all. So if you hit the guitar hard, you're not going to get any sort of sign of distortion. That's not what I'm going for. We want it to be as clean as possible. So the first thing you have to do is sort of balance your master volume and your output with the gain control. So I think if you go too far beyond 12 o'clock here, you might start to get some of that breakup. But so you have to really, depends on the guitar you use and the kind of pickups that you use. So that's what I go for as far as the gain. As far as the chimey quality I was talking about, I primarily get that out of the presence control. So I run it fairly high. If you try to get that out of the treble control, it might get a little too pointy sounding. It's not what I'm going for. I still want it to be, like I said before, rich and full-bodied sounding. Middle, I like to scoop out. I think if there's too much middle in the clean sound, it's just too here. I want it to be sort of scoopy and not necessarily hard sounding, a little bit soft sounding. And then I kind of roll in enough bass to where it sounds full. I think because it's so clean, you're not in any danger of having flubbiness happen. So you can, have a fair amount of bass in there. Just watch it. If it gets too dark, back that off. Also, you'll notice that I don't have the EQ engaged. There's no EQ. I just like the balanced sound of the channel on its own. And that's my philosophy on getting a clean tone. Alright, moving on to channel 2. There are a bunch of really good sounds in this channel. The ones that I primarily use are the crunch mode sound and the Mark I mode sounds. Starting with the crunch sound, I'd like to point out also in all these channels I have the amp set to 90 watts. By the way, I like the amp to be loud and wide open. If you're looking for that low wattage thing, that's a whole nother story, but I like the sound of the power section. I like the amp to roar. In this case, also the EQ is on. Get into the EQ more when we talk about channel 3, but just assume right now that it's on. I found a really good, tight, aggressive rock rhythm sound in this crunch mode. Now, it doesn't have a ton of gain, so I like to crank the gain on this particular mode. So don't be afraid to turn that up. Similar type of philosophy where you want to get that balance between the blossoming of the high end and the treble. The treble will help you with gain as well, but if you're up too high, it's going to get, you know, on the higher strings it might get a little pointy. So I try to stay away from that. And you can also afford a little bit more mid-range on this channel as opposed to on the clean. You know, it doesn't have to be so soft. It doesn't have to be so scooped and so soft. But if you set it this way and use EQ, I think you can get like a really good, bold, crunchy, tight rhythm sound. And I've used it many, many times. And the other cool thing about this channel, if you're a fan of stomp boxes, overdrives, tube screamers and stuff, it sounds really good on this particular channel. It just really treats this mode nicely. So give that a shot, see if you like it. And that's channel 2 in crunch mode. Alright, so channel 2 also has a really beautiful mode in it called the Mark I mode, and it is very true to the original amps. It's really, really powerful in that you can get a lot of volume, a lot of low end, and surprisingly, a lot of gain. It's a really, really great singing single note sound. It's kind of the opposite of the mode that I just played. It's not the tight, chunky, crunchy, aggressive thing. It's more of a singing, tubular, kind of bluesy, melodic thing. So talking about the way that I got the sounds here, in this case I turned the EQ off. I don't think it needs it. I kind of like the, I don't want to say narrowness, but I'll use that. It's still a broad sound, but a little bit narrow, and I like that for this particular tone. I'm using it in the normal mode. You have normal and you have thick. In this case with the 4x12, I think the thick is going to be a little bit too much, so I have it in normal mode. Like I said before, there is a ton of bass in this mode, so I have the bass way, way down. Try to not have the low end be flubby, try to make it tight. It's going to be a little loose on purpose, and that's fine because you're going to be using this for single notes. And it likes the presence in the treble higher than I think the other channels. So don't be afraid to open it up in that sense and get those controls up. And you'll probably also find you need some more volume as compared to this channel in the crunch mode. As far as the gain, yeah, I mean, it has tons of gain. If you crank it, you can get some really, really cool singing, sustaining tones. So go for it. When it's back a little bit the way I have it, you might get a little bit more expressiveness out of it, which is cool. And especially when you dig in with the pick on the neck pickup and you get those kind of squishy little overtones, you might find you get that a bit more if the gain is turned down a bit. So check it out.